Those Keeneland packages are available for the entire meet. And that's what DRF is doing right now. They're giving you the options to buy full packages for meets where you can save a ton of money if you just buy in bulk. If you know you're going to be playing the races at Keeneland each and every day, go get the full package, save 60+% full meet pass performances. They also have betting strategies available for opening day, Friday. Barry Spears joined me to preview the late pick 5 for Friday. They have betting strategies available for every Saturday at the Keeneland meet. So one of those Saturdays will be Saturday, October the 5th, the opening Saturday of the meet. And Barry, this one's a good one. They have 5 graded stakes races in an all graded stakes pick 5. For those of you who may not have joined us for the Friday show, Saturday, October 5th, is a day that's honestly bigger. It's busier than a Breeders' Cup day. The races, the Breeders' Cup races are always the biggest. They're the championship races. They're the huge ones. But, on Breeders' Cup Saturday, we'll get 9 Breeders' Cup races. On Saturday, October 5th, there are 16 graded stakes races in North America, 18 stakes races between 4 tracks: Keeneland, Belmont and Aqueduct, Santa Anita, and Woodbine. And between Friday and Sunday, there are 20 Breeders' Cup win and you're in races around the world. It is just a huge, huge weekend of racing, Barry. Are you ready to rock, my friend?
Hell yeah. It's funny. You never would think, when you were younger or, a few years ago, like in 2024 on October 5th, it's going to be one of the best racing days
Ever.
ever.
Yeah. The way the calendar falls, the way that these tracks are all getting the last big preps out of the way before the Breeders' Cup, it's just, there's a quality and a quantity that's going to be awesome. I mean, they have at Santa Anita, the coast to coast pick 5 bets are back between Santa Anita and Gulfstream. There's also a special wager this weekend. It's called like the Future Stars pick 5. And
Oh,
it
wow.
has the 2-year-old prep races from Belmont and Aqueduct. So it has the Frazette and the Champagne. It has the Breeders' Futurity, which you and I are going to preview in race number 9 at Keeneland. And it has the 2-year-old races from Santa Anita, the American Pharoah and the Oakleaf. So all the 5 2-year-old races at 3 different tracks. That's a cool one. Just
Yeah.
a new pick 5 there for you. I mean, it is going to be a really fun Saturday. Make sure you head to drf.com, get loaded up with all the past performances you need, all the help, all the products that you need when you're playing the races. Let's do this, my friend. Let's dive into races 6 through 10, Saturday, Keeneland, October 5th. If you want to follow along, race 6 is the grade 2 Woodford. I said this yesterday when we were talking about one of the sprint races. I think I said it with the Belmont Turf Sprint also. Any turf sprints right now, the horses in there are just so happy not to see Cogburn. It's like, hey, no Cogburn? Okay, let's roll up our sleeves a little bit.
We got a chance.
We got a shot. You know what I mean? We
So
can
you're
maybe
telling
do
us
this.
there's a chance.
So you're saying there's a chance. And we kick off the pick 5 with the grade 2 Woodford. And you see that a lot of these horses have run into Cogburn at some point recently. From a talking standpoint, horses that I think will be very logical. The number 4, Our Shot, is just honest, has been knocking on the door. A horse who comes running, comes from off the pace. No Nate Hudson, super logical for Wesley Ward. No Balls is the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint winner from last year. He was really fast at one point, and now he's actually shown a little more versatility. He can come from off the pace if need be. That's how he won the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint last year. Just kind of a shock in doing so. Super Quest is very sharp, very, very honest, and Arzak's been kind of a mainstay in these turf sprints over the last couple years, really kind of like a measuring stick for this. So Barry, take your pick, man. It's as expected in these turf sprints, like a lot of directions you can go with just however you think the race could shape up.
Yeah, you know how I like these turf sprints. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I really do a lot of damage in these races. One thing that kind of stuck out to me is you got to think that the one timer is in there as a rabbit for no balls, um, because I think no ball's best races have been off the pace,
Kind of
not on
sitting
the
like,
yeah, and I think that's going to serve this horse really, really well in this spot. I think he's probably going to be close to his morning line price. I was thinking more 9 to 2, 4 to 1 ish, uh, because he hasn't been in great form. He got hot last year and kind of ran the table. He really lost that one race to Troy kind of by accident to Cogburn, but other than that, he was lights out.
yep,
Um, this year, he's shown a little bit of vulnerability, but he didn't get a start until July 28th. So I can forgive those two races for sure. And I think he's probably going to give his best performance of the year in this race. So,
third start off the bench.
yeah, it's just set up for him to do that. I'm definitely going to use him in the multi-race bets, along with Arzak. I'm sorry,
Yep.
Arzak, kind of the same sort of deal. Uh, got a late start, sort of to the year. Didn't his first start? He actually won the Shakertown at Keeneland, which is another added thing with Arzak.
Loves it here.
Loves it at Keeneland, and I think he's going to be primed for a right spot. I mean, he won at Keeneland, then ran a good race in the Jaipur behind Cogburn, surprisingly enough, and just kind of got unlucky at Monmouth and then in the Harvey Pack. So I think this is another spot where this horse fits very well. There's enough speed in here. Um, he should be charging late. And then the last horse that really caught my attention was XY Speed. He's beaten a lot of these horses, including Super Quest. Been mixing it up with Axthelm, None Hudson, horses like that. Has the ability and speed to win this race. It's going to be tough from outside, but I don't think it's impossible. I think he's going to get a decent trip because there's not a whole hell of a lot of speed, but the speed that's in here is really fast, and I think he's going to get a good spot from the way outside. So I'm going to throw him in at 12 to 1.
Couple others that are on my radar. At a big price, the 11 Gear Jockey is kind of interesting just from if you're throwing a few horses in, he has a really high ceiling. Like you can look at his last two. So in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, just put a line through that race. Then he was off from all the way from November to September. He showed back up at Kentucky. He got shuffled badly on the inside when he drew the rail. And he really just had no shot in that race against Cogburn. But that was kind of a nice shake some of the rust off. He's not overly consistent. That's built into his price, though. He's a horse who has a high ceiling with the right kind of setup. So if you're using a few in here, maybe you throw him in at a big price as well. He's run good races at Keeneland. He's just not an 8, 10, 12-time winner like some of the others that we've talked about because he doesn't have that kind of a running style. He sort of gets behind horses and he needs a little bit more of a trip. The 8's really honest too. Like we were saying, Super Quest. I have a hard time leaving him just completely out because he's, where he's going to be. He's going to be on the lead or really close to it. He'll fight. If they go a little too quick, he'll probably fade, but he'll still fight his heart out. If he's probably faster than everybody in this race though.
Yeah.
So, again, and I say things like this, there are versions of this race where maybe he sneaks away a little bit if everyone's just content with sitting right behind him. So I probably have to throw him in this spot as well. But you mentioned a lot of the other horses that I thought the one was, I thought the one is actually a little bit interesting too, because I just want this horse to go, just to make sure that there is a fast pace and overall the body of work on the grass is
He's not bad. I mean,
he's not, no.
If he got away with some soft fraction, he could definitely win this race. I just don't think he's going to get that kind of trip, and I don't think that's what he's in there for.
No, just to kind of make sure it's at least honest.
Yes.
There. But as always, very challenging races to kick off a pick 5 sequence or a multi-race exotic sequence. No Ball's probably the one to beat with a really high ceiling. Barry also mentioned some others like Arzak and XY Speed. I do respect the heck out of the 8 Super Quest. I thought the 11 was kind of a fun price to throw in as well. Gear Jockey.
He jumps up and runs big races every now and then too.
Yeah. So he's a nice horse to have at a price. Just, like I said, if this is a spread race for you and you're looking for some price horses, he's the type of horse who's capable. There are price horses where you have to ask yourself a lot of the time, are they even fast enough to win this race? Can they compete with these types of horses? That's not the question for him. It's just, will he get the kind of trip? He's 7 now. Maybe he lost a little bit of it, but those things are built into the price. So,
One thing I forgot to mention about XY Speed, if you
please
look at his past performances, he runs better from the outside, to be honest. The times that he's kind of outside, he just runs better.
gives him some
And I think,
options with everybody
and
the inside of him. Nothing
well,
to
you
the
can see even in the comments, 4 wide, 3 wide, 4 wide, 5 path, 2 path. He's always wide, and it serves him good.
well.
Um, I,
Sounds kind of
he's
silly,
real interesting here.
I think you try to think of things like as a human person or just like a living being. Sometimes when you're
Sure.
driving your car, it's just more comfortable when you have when you are on the outside, when you're
Yeah,
not
you
in
have
between
tendencies. Yeah.
when you're not in between other cars, right? When you're driving on the freeway or you're driving, when you're on the far lane, when you're in the fast lane or when you're in the carpool lane, it's a little more comfortable for you because you just know you're really only looking at the one side. That's also how it is for these horses. It's way easier, I think, and more comfortable for a lot of them just having everything to the inside of them. Problem with that is you do give up a lot of ground. So if you're hooked really wide, it's going to catch up with you. As far as just a comfortability thing, though, it's much nicer to have horses just to the inside of you, and you can kind of look over and know what's happening. So when I'm driving my car, Barry, I'm gonna get over to the fast lane. I'm getting over to the fast lane. That way I can be chilling.
See, we can't do that here in Daytona because they'll put you in the wall, man.
Oh yeah, I was gonna
You
say
can't
someone will
you
put you
can't
into the
pass on
wall.
the outside. You get
Yeah,
put
you
you
get
in the
put in.
wall.
You get put in there. Oh, let's get to the TCA, Thoroughbred Club of America. So race number 7 is for filly and mare sprinters. It is a grade 2, and you don't have Bava,
The
Society,
usual
Ways
suspects.
Ways and Means, Sweet Azteca, probably the tip top of the filly and mare sprint division. So this is a little bit more open. I do think Brightwork is absolutely a horse I respect. Everything about her makes sense, but because she's missed a lot of time, she doesn't have overwhelming speed figures that say she's a lot faster than horses in this group. So from just trying to beat a horse or from a horse who may be a little bit vulnerable, you're always curious with a horse like this who has missed a lot of time, but she's been really good at sprints, and I'm not even trying to knock her in here. Just saying on speed figures, she's not overwhelming. And look at Spirit Wind, for example, just has run a lot faster because she has more races overall, right? Than
My
Brightwork
theory is,
does.
yeah, my theory is she probably needed that race. They finally
Yeah.
figured out that she didn't want to go long,
Yep.
and then kind of prepped her. From November 3rd to August 31st. That's a long time.
She got backed up a few different times before that race too. She was not. She's gonna be better than
Yeah,
that. That
yeah,
she'll
that's
have a
what I was
step
getting at.
forward. My whole thing is from a price standpoint,
No value at all.
she's not. I definitely respect her. Like I would not throw her out of your pick 5. I am not telling you to do that. I'm just saying I can't single in on her and key her because I don't think she's overwhelming enough. And a lot of her races, she doesn't win that way either. She's kind of like a battler. She'll kind of fight you. So I respect the heck out of her. It kind of looks like Barry in this race from a tactical standpoint. You have Spirit Wind, who's really fast, then a bunch of pressers. Like everybody else would love to be in the second flight. Clearly Unhinged. Anywho, Brightwork, Run for the Hills, and Red Carpet Ready. They'd all love to be in that next spot. And then you have Zetlos, who will just be chilling in the back. It's almost like you have the speed horse,
2 different races.
a bunch of the other horses that all want to kind of be in that next flight, and then the deep closer. So like at least how I kind of saw it in my head and thought it could project that way. So this is the horse to catch. And she's kind of pretty simple when you look at her form. She just doesn't want to go farther than 6 furlongs.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. I think it's almost like she just stops when she
Yep.
hits the 6 furlong mark.
Yep.
I guess my question would be, is what is the two going to do?
And
A,
with
is the two actually going to run? And B, is she going to get in the way of Spirit Wind?
because someone like that was going to be my next point. When you have 4 or 5 horses that are all going to be looking for that same spot, is one or two of these horses just going to break well and go on with it? Is someone going to try to get a little bit more aggressive? Which one of these horses maybe does a little of the dirty work to put some pressure on Spirit Wind?
Right. That's the key. And I don't discount the fact that the horse that I do like might be the horse that actually kind of pushes Spirit Wind and kind of makes her go a little bit faster than she wants, and that's the 7, Red Carpet Ready.
Absolutely. Yep.
I mean, they tried the turf experiment. She ran good at Ellis, didn't run that well at Kentucky Downs, and now they're getting her back to the dirt where I think she's very, very classy. Probably the class of this race,
I agree.
actually. At 8-1, it's hard to resist. I don't think she's going to be that price.
5? Can we
But
get
she's not
5?
going to be favorite.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to get 5. I
If
want to say
because that
she's
would
going to be second choice here or
that would
third
be
choice.
great for us because I think the two. I think Brightwork will be favored. I think that makes sense.
Hmm.
I do think the 4 could take
It's either
more.
the 4 or
Yeah,
Red Carpet
I
Ready would
think.
probably be right there.
Yeah, because I think I could see like Red Carpet Ready and Zetlos maybe being the same price.
Yeah, that would make sense.
I
Yeah.
could see them being like 4-1, 9-2. That would be okay with me. I don't want to take less than 4-1, but I gave this horse out earlier today as one of my better plays of the weekend too. I
Oh
think.
boy, we're on the same horse.
Yep. I think she just.
Law professor.
There we go. The lock. She really fits a lot of what you were saying. She's always been a nice horse sprinting on the dirt, and she's just run into some really nice horses. Maple Leaf Mel, rest in peace. Alva Star and Vava. She's not quite at that level, but she's really solid still. She tried the turf a couple times. The first turf race wasn't bad. Then last time out,
Just a
she faced
dud.
AG Bullet, and AG Bullet just crushed that field. It was when
Right.
nobody was passing it at Kentucky, and everybody was just winning on the front end. So just put a line right through that race. What it did do is get you some fitness. Third start of the form cycle. Now she'll cut back. I think 6 furlongs with the outside draw.
Perfect.
Absolutely perfect. Gives her a little more punch where she can sit just off, but she doesn't have to be too far out of it. And like you said, she's faced nice horses early on. From a class standpoint, she fits very, very well. So
Yeah, I like her in this spot quite a
yep.
bit. And if it was a bigger field, maybe 10, 11 horses, she might have, drifted up in price, but it's going to be interesting how this race is bet because the one is interesting too.
Me too. But
Um,
and I don't but I'm the one is there's nothing wrong on paper with the
she
one.
just hasn't run fast enough figures yet. I think she's got the ability to do
Me
that.
too.
It's just a matter of when it comes out. It could be this race. I mean, this is a really tough race.
I wouldn't be shocked if the 1 and 7 money was a little bit different between those two, right? Those may
Yeah.
be the two like we're talking about where maybe the 7 takes some of the 1's money
Yeah, I
and we
think that's
have
the case because you can see at least class wise, um, the 7 is slightly
better.
better,
Just face
just
better
slightly.
horses.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it would not shock me if this ends up being a race where, Brightwork's the shortest price and then we do have a few of those horses in that like 7-2 to 6-1 range.
Yeah. I mean,
That
Brightwork should be sitting on a good race. Whether
yeah, she
she
should.
wins or not is another story. But I think that horse is the deserved favorite.
Agree.
Um, but man, this is a tough race. I mean, especially in a sequence where it falls in this sequence,
Mhm.
because you kind of have to make a decision here. You know, the first race is awfully tough, and
Really tough
you would
sprint.
think that's a spread race. Then you come into this race, and everybody's not going to be huge prices or anything, but they're all really evenly matched.
Competitive.
So I guess this is where you got to make decisions.
Barry and I
Whether single or go too deep and then kind of spread later or spread here and get skinny later. These are the types of things that, like the better's conundrum. It's
yeah,
always
I
this.
I'm probably gonna try at least on a bigger ticket to get out of here 3-7. I think I might. 4 would be my
Same.
next,
Yeah,
you
I'm
know,
the same thing.
4 would be the next one I use just because there could be a possibility where she sneaks away. But I think that the 3 and the 7 can both stay close enough in this race to where they can be within striking range of Spirit Wind.
Yeah, I agree.
So that was yeah, we see this race pretty similar. That's race number 7, the TCA. Race number 8 is the First Lady. This one's kind of a fun race too. You have a
Man,
grade
it's a
1.
monster race.
Yeah, for and it looks like this race could actually have a pretty fair, honest early pace, which we don't get in a lot of these turf races. I think Safine wants to be forwardly placed, wants to go. You have Walkathon, who
Yep.
has been forward, wants to be really close up. EV Jets, best races are when close up, wants to be forward in here. And you have AG Bullet, who is very, very quick, has to go, stretching out from sprints. I mean, I think they want to clear off and try to steal this race. That's probably what they'll hope to do. And then White Beam's best races are when she catches fields where there's not that much speed and nobody decides to go, and then she's able to really take advantage of it. So they could be going pretty quick in here when they don't normally go that quick in these types of races.
Yeah, it'd be a nice surprise because it's tough when you don't have that kind of layout to where you can kind of map out the races. When it's a slower pace, sometimes it gets murky, and you get horses that uh, can go to lead that don't or won't or decide to do something different. Here, it looks like these horses have a distinct style. I mean, Safine has, been forwardly placed every time. Walkathon really his only best races have, or her only best races have come when she's on the lead.
Yep.
Evie Jet's the same way.
Yep.
So, like you said, this is a nice setup. Even AG Bullet will
Yeah.
have to
Has
get
to go.
involved early. White Beam probably has to get close up as well from the way outside. So
And Giroux's a really aggressive rider too, right? You think of him being someone that wants to get horses close. I think it'll be really fair and honest in here.
yeah, and I do too, and that's why I'm going to, the horse I like quite a bit in here is Fluffy Socks.
Oh my gosh, dude, I gave out 2 horses earlier today on the show that I was on. I gave out Red Carpet Ready and Fluffy Socks.
Oh man.
They asked me for 2. I just think she's finally going to get some pace. She almost
Yep.
never does.
No, I know. If you go back to her race at Tampa, the Hillsborough, that glacial pace they had that day, and this horse was up close. Um, if she got any sort of a pace to run into, she won, and she did get it in the Gallarette. Although those horses were a
She was
tier
better than them.
below, right? She was going to overcome anything anyway that day.
But look at all
So
of her losses in
it's just
to
super slow
horses
pace.
that are fast, that are just speed horses, like we just mentioned. Walkathon, White
White
Beam,
Beam,
Beau Cachet, Sparkle Blue, when they were crawling. Didia was
Didia,
sitting
same
right
thing.
there, sitting a perfect trip. That, like, all of these horses that were beating her were way in front of her, getting slow paces. Look at her form
Yeah,
at the mile. Because she's better at a mile when it's
than
going
any time.
shorter,
Right.
because she gets a little bit more pace to run at more of the time than when they're going longer. She usually doesn't get that. She'll get more time to make up ground, but she usually doesn't get enough of a pace to come rolling. I like her a lot in this spot. And also, this Gino Romantica, super respect her. I
She
think
doesn't like to win though.
you totally respect her. She's won a couple of grade ones, but other than that, there's nobody else in this field that is a monster that scares you, that overwhelms you. If you're just looking at speed figures, Fluffy Socks' ceiling of the 100 buyer is right there with the
Yep.
tops in
Oh
this
yeah.
group. That's funny. And she should save ground too from the inside. Just save all the ground. And then top of the lane, find your seam. Are you going inside or you're going outside? You got to have, you got to find a way. We hope it looks like there's going to be a little bit of pace. She's going to be a huge price in here.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you have those, the foreign horses that are going to take money. The two,
Yep.
in particular looks really good on
Yeah,
paper.
absolutely.
Definitely a danger because they have like a built-in advantage with all the class and the horses they run against over there.
And
But
she's got a little
special,
bit of kind of, she doesn't have to be too far out of it either. She was sitting second and just kind of held her position well. Now,
mm,
that speed won't translate over to being on the lead here, but she's not a deep, stone cold closer with no speed. And I think that's an important factor with
mm,
when horses that come over, because I think some of the times really good horses that are just a little slow early, that can be the that can be the difference between winning and losing when you come
yep,
to the US and you're not quite fast enough early on. So I always give a real positive to horses who I just see that can put themselves early in the race and sit in a nice spot. She's
yeah.
also faced the boys a bunch too.
That's what stood out to me. And then the other one is the 7 Special One, who does have a start in North America at Kentucky Downs and a win. But this horse has been running really, really good overseas. It's going to be tough to get Fluffy Socks to the wire, but you got to get your price. And I think it's doable because there's
Throw her
enough speed
in your pick
and
fours and pick fives.
yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you're playing tries and stuff, use her. But she's never the type of horse who's going to have a win-loss record that is monster because of her running style. This feels like one of the spots where you can try to line up with her because on paper, it does set up. She should be a fair price. It's not the strongest group in the world for a grade one. It feels more like a grade two. It's a
yes,
competitive
yes.
race.
Hmm.
There's a lot of horses that could win this race, sure. They're just not all at the tip top of the division right now. So, um, I mean, we got to mention the Dangerfield horse too, right? Chili Flag, who doesn't get a lot of respect.
No, and getting back to what she's better at is the mile.
Yep.
I like to think that this horse is probably gonna have a good race here, but I think they're trying to angle towards a better run in the next race, which I gather would be the Breeders' Cup Mile. I don't know because Chad Brown has
And
a
because
lot of
she's
horses
as a
in
filly and
this
mare too, she's
division.
kind of a tweener. Because if she's in the mile, she faces the boys. She doesn't want to go longer, right? And go in the filly and mare turf. That's too far for her. So yeah, she might be maybe not a Breeders' Cup horse. Maybe she runs here and maybe she comes back, but we'll see. Maybe
Yeah,
she
that's
does,
what I
and that
mean.
she
It's
could
it's
be a
tough,
mile against the boys. And if
tough race.
there is the pace that we're seeing, she certainly can get the trip
Oh yeah.
where she comes running. It that's why this race is really fun because the it doesn't feel like there are any real standouts head and shoulders above in
No, not
here.
at all. Not at all.
Great betting race. Race number 8 on Saturday at Keeneland. We move from one grade one to a next grade one. This one is the Breeders' Futurity. And this one has 2-year-olds that we could possibly see in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and possibly in the Kentucky Derby next year. So a very exciting race. Ferocious 8-5 was the runner up in the hopeful. You know, he never looked like he was going to win that race. In fact, top of the lane, he looked like he was starting to back up. And then Chancellor McPatrick comes flying down the center, and it sort of re-engaged Ferocious. He, so on class alone, kind of tried to go with Chancellor McPatrick. He was never going to win, but it was really impressive for him to get second that day in a race where he didn't even look like he had much interest in that race. So we know there's a better one in there from him who got a big figure in his career debut. The 5 East Avenue was visually very impressive at Ellis Park, earned a nice speed figure in winning that race. Towards the outside, we have the 11 Dapper Moon, who was a nice, impressive winner on August the 31st. Those are a few of the horses that I think will take money in here. There's some of the shorter prices on the morning line. Go ahead, my friend. Talk to us about some of the horses you like in this one.
Yeah, I wasn't able to get too creative in this race. Um, I really only keyed in on 2 horses because I just think they're the best 2. And Ferocious is one of them. I like the way that he finished up uh, the hopeful. like you said, he kind of got lost early in the race, and it's like, where is he? What is he
Yeah.
doing? He's kind of messing around, and I think that's because he's a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And then he finally got it, his head straight, and was in the game, and he started running really hard, and was finishing fast.
He did.
And it definitely bodes well for the stretch out. He's just fast,
He
point
saved
blank. A lot of these
ground.
horses aren't, and
Yeah.
and he's just quick, and he's going to come running. And the other one is the 10 Dapper Moon. I
Yeah.
like his last race,
Me too. A lot.
and I think he can stretch out. He'll be okay in a race like this. Um,
The horse he lost to in his debut, Incentive Pay, he came back. He ran third in the Hopeful, and he's nice. And he was not far behind Ferocious. He just kind of was down on the inside. He was also a little bit green there. He was actually supposed to run in this race. I think he got sick. He had some little backup, and then I'm pretty sure he's done for the rest of the year. But he's a nice 2-year-old to keep an eye on for next year when he's going to be 3. I like Dapper Moon in that progression also
Me too.
from 6 to 7. I think he can sit really well from the outside. I also was with you. I didn't get all that creative in here. The only one that I might throw in was the 4, Handsome Pants, whose debut was pretty good. And he was 6th inside. He's about 5 lengths off. He was behind a clump of 5 horses that were kind of working themselves out towards the front. He was traveling well, and he was in between horses. He had to wait. He angled out. He had to deal with some bumping from the 3 to 5 favorite and the runner-up, who was kind of leaning in on him. And what I like in that race, he wins. He beats the 4 to 5 favorite that day, whose name is Kinetic Control. And Kinetic Control was like 4 lengths clear of the 3rd place finisher. That was a winning race from Kinetic Control. He improved off of his debut. That was a race that probably wins most, but Handsome Pants was just a little bit better. And not the easiest thing to do to win going long first time out of the box like that. What a big year it was for these connections, right?
Oh my God!
Wouldn't
Yes.
it be awesome for them to have a 2-year-old like this just to get them all excited to do the whole thing over again next year?
Yeah, I
Hey,
think they got
let's do
one.
it again, right?
Yeah.
It's a nice horse here. So Handsome.
The wild card horse that I had was the 6 Veloso.
Oh yeah, he's worth mentioning
um,
too.
because I think there is a version of this race where the pace gets super duper hot, and a horse like this can come rolling from way back. I mean,
We like
winning
that,
at a mile is good. I like the way that he won.
and
Um,
we like the debut race where he wasn't beaten all that much when he was
right,
4th
he was in
that
that
day.
same incentive pay race.
Dapper
You
Moon
know what
race.
I also found really interesting is the breeder. Is that really the O'Sheen Murphy, or is that somebody else?
Oh wow, that's funny. Because is that spelled the same way, or is it? Oh
I'm pretty sure it's the same.
wow, that's something we got to look into. That's a good little find there. Yeah,
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Johnny V aboard. I'm glad you mentioned him because he was in the tier right with Handsome Pants, these talented horses that are up and coming that could be really fair value in here. So maybe if you're looking for a little value, Filoso, Handsome Pants could be some of the horses that offer you that. Ferocious and Dapper Moon, we kind of feel like are the ones to beat in here. And East Avenue, very, very
Yeah,
fast.
it didn't even get a shout out from us, and that horse is just ultra fast. I mean, it's going to be hard for that horse to pull this off unless he gets just a gift of a trip. But you never know these days.
Yeah, his race was extremely
Strong,
impressive.
very
And
strong.
and
Yeah.
visually like fast, cleared off, no knocks on the race whatsoever. It's just going
Dan,
from 6 to a mile and a 16th. That's going to be a lot to ask without that next race of foundation, either the 6.5 or the 7, having another race under you. So, again,
and he's
we
extremely well bred. Dance Music
yeah.
is a pretty nice horse.
And he, going through the field, he's naturally the fastest in
Sure.
here. He'll have a length or two on the field early on, and we'll see if they want to just try to open up with it or if they want to try to, harness it and slow things down and see how much he can get. The breeders, Futurity, Ferocious, the one to beat. Let's close out this pick 5, Barry, with the grade 1 Coolmore Turf Mile on the turf for 3-year-olds and up. Horses in here who should get some support. You have the 1 Mountain Bear, who comes in for Aiden O'Brien out of some big group stakes races where he was the runner-up. He was the second place finisher in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf last year, also behind Unquestionable. The 2-horse, Kikuli, will also get some support. Another shipper. The 3, More Than Looks, second start back of the year off a good effort. But the horse they'll all have to beat is Carl Spackler. He has become really, really good. He has gotten even more kind of tactical and more positional speed as he's gotten a little bit older. And again, in his last few races, he's hard to beat with that running style. He has one race that you can kind of eliminate. But other than that, he's defeated all of these horses of the local horses, the U.S.-based horses, More Than Looks, Talk of the Nation, the ones that are going to be his top rivals of those. He's defeated them, and he probably has the tactical edge on horses like Mountain Bear and Kikuli, because Mountain Bear is not fast early.
No,
Mountain
that's
Bear
really
comes
to his
from
detriment.
way out of it. That's
Mhm.
the problem. And it doesn't look like there's not a lot of speed in this race.
No, that's what I mean. I was
Like
just going to ask
none.
you. I was going to
None.
ask you if you thought Carl Spackler could wire this field.
He could. Absolutely.
I tend to not like him because he runs a lot in short fields, and it's like, if you can dominate a 4-horse field, great, you know. Um, I don't know. I'm just not sold on him in this spot either. I can't really explain why he just doesn't feel right to me here. He could probably win and be 3-5, but I just don't. I don't like him in this spot. I
the,
really couldn't tell you why.
the horse who
Um,
I want to use is the 4, Running B. I think he's going to get a really nice trip in here with his running style. I think he can sit really close. He's going to have a little more punch cutting back to a mile. 2 starts back, he was behind. He just was a little too far behind in a race when Get Smokin' kind of run off. And Get Smokin's a really fast runoff horse. Other than that, his entire year has been really good. Besides that race, his race behind Balnikov wasn't bad. It was on soft over at Pimlico. Balnikov is like a legitimate graded stakes horse out on the West Coast too. I think he just can sit a very nice trip. And with Giraud aboard, I wouldn't be shocked if they get aggressive with this horse of the Browns and
I
try
hope
to,
so.
yeah,
I really hope so.
I would like that.
That would be nice, and I think that's kind of the plan because Carl Spackler would
Gives him a target.
ideally better with a target like a
I agree.
stalker.
Yep.
So I guess that would be the plan. But if somebody else, we got to get somebody else to get in the action here. If we don't, those two might run 1-2.
Yeah.
Spackler running B. But if not, I think Mountain Bear and the 2
those are the 2
are really tough because
they're the classy new faces.
They're coming over here from big outfits like this, and usually when they do that, the timing, right? It's the first week of October. It's a prep for the Breeders' Cup.
Yep.
So the thing that I like that they do is they come here to win both.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to. They don't want to prep. Really, they want to win both of these.
Well,
races.
We're seeing this starting to happen a lot more, which is smart. Mm-hmm. If you want to try to go for the Breeders' Cup, why not come and try to win both of them? Get a little more acclimated to the racing, the early pace, the style, that kind of thing. See really where you stack up with some of the horses that are at the top levels here. Then you can get an idea of where you would be in the Breeders' Cup anyway. It just serves a lot of purposes. A horse like Kikuli, for example, he's been doing a lot of his work at 7 furlongs. This is a really good spot for him to come at a mile. It's not like he's been bad. He only has 1 race at a mile. He was second that day. But he'll be able to sit a little closer because he's coming out of those 7 furlong races instead of mile and an eighth races.
Right, and he's not going to be like buried in the back of the field or anything. He'll probably be closer
mid-pack.
to mid-pack.
Yep.
And also, I think this could be the time that Talk of the Nation could turn the tables on Carl Spackler if the trip comes out. I mean, that's
the
what
wild
we're betting
card
here.
Johnny V is the key, right? Can Johnny V give him a different Hall of Fame ride where we've seen him try to get aggressively handled before, but every time I feel like he didn't get the separation or that they really didn't ride him quite the right way. So I agree with you. He feels like a horse who fits really well here. Goliad was a runoff last time out. He wasn't going to be close in that type of a race. And the Arlington Million, that's too far for him. He kind of loomed up, and then, you could see the 1.25 miles is just too much. But
right, and he had a chance to beat Carl Spackler in the Kelso. But again, that was that 4-horse field, and it's like it was the perfect trip for Carl Spackler. And it's like, how many times can he get the perfect trip? And
if
then
he's
you say, on the other hand, it's like, well, is he making that trip or is he just getting that trip?
and now in those smaller races too, like in the poker, or in the opening verse, he's 4-1. In the Kelso, he's 8-5. Now he might be 4 or 5 times the price as Carl Spackler.
Mm-hmm.
He's just going to be a lot more playable from a price standpoint. Where in those races, you're like, okay, it's a field of 4. Carl Spackler is going to be the heavy favorite. I have to play Talk of the Nation at 8-5 because he's the speed horse, but I don't really want to play him at 8-5. He's a better price
He
at
just falls
8-5
into the spot
because
like
he's the
like
one. You want to play a horse like this at 10-1. Like that's where you feel good about playing him. And that he could be that in here, because if the 1 and the 2 get money and Carl Spackler gets money and More Than Looks gets money,
definitely,
he could just float up a little bit.
Yeah, I think so.
He doesn't have a win in a while. And
right, people are gonna shy away because he hasn't won in a while, and he's kind of runner-upping. But he's had, he was out of place in the August 11th race, which is the Arlington Million, and
none
then
of the other races
the,
he ran
the runoff,
poorly.
right? The runoff in Goliad, so you can put an X through that. But all the other races, he's right there. And I think if he got a better setup, which he might get with this larger field, it could help him out.
And you ask yourself, okay, what could be different in this race? Why would I use him? Well, one, there's a jockey change. Could a new Hall of Fame rider who's very good with horses on the front end. Something you and I have discussed quite often too, is that Irad Ortiz Jr. right now in this era of racing wins more races than anyone. Fantastic rider. Really always going to try to give you everything he's got. Not my personal favorite. Everybody has their own personal favorites, but he is right now the best. If you're going to talk about the best riders, it's him. You and I have said repeatedly, though, that's not his strength, being on the front end. He's much more of a sit mid-pack, come closing, just get a feel for when to make the move.
Timing. Yeah,
that's
he's
the
got
key.
Great timing.
The clock in the head, just knowing when to make the move that's what he does well. And when he's riding, he has no fear. He doesn't give 2 Fs, right, about anything.
No, he doesn't care.
And a good and a bad way. Sometimes you wish he would a little more because you're like, hey, you don't want anyone to get hurt. But
well, this is how I explain Irad and how he rides like that. What's scarier, a pit bull walking around the street or a pit bull on the leash?
That's right.
He's the pit bull walking around the street. He's dangerous, but it's kind of like, you're gonna think twice. And it wins him a lot of races, especially in the claiming level.
When someone else blinks and he doesn't.
Right.
You're trying to both hit the same spot and he's just all in for it. And you want that as an athlete. But his strength is mid-pack, the clock. Johnny V's, I think, is being on the lead, being close to the front end. He could give this horse a really nice ride. So he could maybe be the difference in a horse that's now going to be a lot better of a price, much more playable. No problem using Talk of the Nation. I stacked them 4, 6, 9 in here.
1, 2, 6.
Those are the ones we talked about. And then the 1 and the 2 were the 2 to this was probably going to be the first and the last will probably be the spread races a little more for me. I'm going to try to, I think, shorten up in the middle 2 that we talked a little bit about. And another really good sequence, man, as we would expect at Keeneland on opening weekend. Friday, very good. Saturday, very
Even
good.
Better.
Yeah, excellent. So as we get set to finish up, my friend, anything you want to mention before we get out of here?
Nope. We're just firing away all weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do this.
It's going to be an absolute blast. I have videos up. If you're watching this on the YouTube channel, thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you can, subscribe below, because then every time we do a video like this, they'll get sent to you. We have a bunch every week for horse racing, whatever the biggest races are, and football games every week, every game previewed, free analysis to get you all set up. We tell you who some of the games that we're playing are for all of the games, even if they're not the most popular ones, because we know everyone out there is fans of different teams. That's the one thing that I always got sad about. Like when your team's not good and then you don't hear them get talked about, it's like a bummer. It's like, man, I always appreciated when someone would preview all the games, even some of the bad ones, because you know what? Some people are betting on those games too. Some people have fantasy players in those matchups. Barry, buddy, I tapped you on the shoulder for double duty this week. You were happy to oblige as always. Let's crush it at Keeneland. Anyone that needs help, Friday we have a Keeneland video. Saturday, Keeneland Pick 5. Saturday, Belmont and Aqueduct with Matt DeSantis. There's a video for that one. We'll also have Friday and Saturday, Santa Anita, separate videos for those. And then coming out tomorrow, a couple plays up at Woodbine. They also have some big races. So everywhere, all over the place this weekend, we've gotten you taken care of. Thank you so much, Barry. Talk to you again next week, my friend. We will be probably talking more Keeneland next weekend. Good luck to everyone.